The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yes. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Wednesday, September 17th. And today is a National Professional House Cleaners Day. Not those amateur house cleaners, but the real professional ones, you know.
Aw, that's what I have set on my agenda today. I can finally take care of my house.
I love this.
For a little bit.
Yes.
I got professional chops, y'all. I ran a couple Airbnbs for a little bit, some Cannabis here in Austin. And much respect to our professional cleaners. That shit is really hard. It is a serious workout. You are really hustling when you're building from the ground up, and building a business like that is actually worth a ton of money. So go get it, get your bag, and congratulations to y'all. I did not realize I felt so strongly about professional.
Get your bag, and don't forget to take out the trash while you're at it with that bag.
Clean house.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes, and make sure to use the Q-tips on the crown molding. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness.
It's also
not that plastic stuff they're putting up in the White House. That's not what you're talking about. Right?
I love the crown molding at the White House. It's phenomenal. It's also National Monte Cristo Day today. That's a sandwich. Yes, it's a sandwich. It's a sandwich.
It's a damn good sandwich.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's a pretty good movie too.
See?
Yeah. Ham, cheese, raspberry sauce, little powdered sugar on top with the right bread.
Everyone's always recipe. Talking about that powder. And it is National Apple Dumpling Day today, you guys.
Okay.
And probably the most important of them all, it is the Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. Yes. Yes. Happy birthday to the Constitution, the greatest document on the face of the earth, next to probably the Bible. Well, on that, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. As also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms. And I don't think Jenny Beth is with us today. But so I'm going to start it off with you guys, because marijuana records could impact Medicaid recipients trying to fulfill work requirements, you guys. That's right. Medicaid patients will need to adhere to work requirements starting in 2027. But one of the obstacles people can face when applying for jobs is a criminal record. Code for America, a nonprofit working with governments to improve their technological system, said automatic record clearance is more important than ever. And in Hawaii, possession of under 3 grams of cannabis was decriminalized about 5 years ago, but many people still have arrest and conviction records that are eligible for expungement. People can petition themselves to have the records cleared, but David Crawford, the senior program director of Code for America's Clear My Record program, said the process is difficult to navigate, and state-initiated record clearances would be a better option. In a quote, If you have a record that's keeping you from getting a traditional job, you might have to take up multiple side hustles to make ends meet, Crawford said. You could imagine that would be a really difficult way to report on all these things to comply with it. The combination of criminal records blocking people from getting access to jobs and having to navigate a petition process to clear their record and having to navigate a work reporting process. All of these things put people into a double bind. Hawaii Island has a pilot program to do state-initiated clearance of non-conviction marijuana possession arrest records, and lawmakers were set to be updated on that program on Tuesday, you guys. Well, Medicaid, interesting. You might be ineligible for Medicaid because of your cannabis usage or because of your cannabis record. That's just very interesting. I wonder what they're using to cross-reference all this, but I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
What a mess.
Right?
What a mess. Those of us with criminal records from cannabis and shaking our head for a long time, how do we, get out from under this?
Mm-hmm.
Mine's federal, so at this point, there's not a snowball's chance in hell. Mine's going to be expunged unless somebody gives me a pardon, and I don't think that's on the horizon here.
I actually can help you with that, Dale, if you want to get a pardon.
Do I want a pardon? Should never have been put in prison in the first goddamn place. How about that?
I agree with that. I agree with that. I'm just saying, I know a couple people. That's all.
Well, we've created a problem in this country, and the old saying is the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yes, it is.
In the 1960s, we went after what they call the war on poverty.
Yeah.
And we did some stuff, trying to get people to not be hungry and get educated and have good jobs that made certain parts of our citizenry very dependent. Their cultures were turned upside down.
Mm-hmm.
It chased men out of homes where I think many of us think that men are important to be around as kids are being raised, whether they're in the house, or close or whatever. And we've got some messes now. And how do you fix it? Because there's a lot of people that are very dependent on a system that just gives them money.
Mm-hmm.
How do you ask people to say, well, we need you to contribute something, get this money? And, everyone's hair is on fire right now. And I don't have a good answer for them because the system has gotten into a corner.
Yeah.
And how do we get out of it? I don't know.
Dale, I was actually getting into a discussion with someone yesterday, and I truly blame a majority of our domestic problems here at home on the fact of the removal of fathers from homes. And so we were getting into a really good discussion about this yesterday with a friend of mine, and it was very, very, very enlightening on a whole bunch of different levels.
I'm not gonna on the fathers from homes, I'm not sure. I don't know enough, but
it's true.
I don't know. I'm removing fathers by incarcerating them 100%. Also, some fathers just choosing to be in other places, their problem that they need to fix. But back to the Medicaid issue.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I would agree. We do need a healthy culture of men to raise healthy children as much as we need a healthy culture of women and everyone. On the Medicaid thing, this is awful. It should never happen. But also, as one of those millennials, an elder millennial, we're not expecting. Well, think about it. My generation is not expecting to get any benefits. They've already told us that shit will be gone. So,
well, that's because the USAID sucked it all up.
Yeah, we're paying all these taxes. I look at my tax bill all the time, and I'm like, interesting. Social Security, all these things we're paying into that we'll never see. And so it's just, this is really, it's terrible. And also it's endemic. It's not unique to cannabis, though awful, because no one should have any penalties for a plant. And it's amazing to me what we're allowing to fly and what isn't okay, especially when it comes to literally a plant that's good for you. But I don't need to belabor that point. This is bad, but also I'm jaded. We weren't expecting to get anything. Nothing was going to be left in the piggy bank. Hopefully, they'll get the memo and they'll deschedule and figure this whole thing out so America can start to make some money.
You're such a wishful thinker.
I gotta be, man. Someone's gotta be a little bit nutty to lead some of those forefront ideas. I gotta. Otherwise, what am I gonna do? Sit around a ranch, smoke all day, and be depressed? Like, I can't do that. Just smoke all day and have ideas.
One of the things that I learned in prison is that everybody's got to hustle. When the hustle turns into getting money from the government, okay, how do you fix that? And that's sort of the conundrum we're in. Because and it's the black community that really took it in the shorts on this, where it was more financially lucrative for a father to be out of the house than it was to be in the house.
Yeah.
Okay. And that kind of a dynamic set up a horrible set of circumstances here. We don't even know what to do. And it's not unique only to the black community. That's one that really took it in the shorts. Okay. And another problem that no one really wants to put out there and talk about, starting in 1960, women were given absolute control over their reproduction.
Yep.
Okay? And as a culture, we have not figured out what that means. Okay. The birth rate has dropped well below sustainability in the United States, and it's going other places around the world. And our culture just doesn't quite know what to do. Women now, if they're given the power to do this, they choose one child. Okay, that's it. Now, what do we do with that? Because they have the control over that, and trying to coerce women into having more kids. They tried that in the 1930s. It didn't work. I don't know what we're going to do now. And it's a whole lot built into a system that tried to help people, but it led right to a series of problems right now we have no answer for. People want to point fingers and get angry when this developed over decades. It just happened yesterday, and it's not going to go away tomorrow. And adding criminal records into this for things like weed, and it just complicates it. When when you're my age, it's a little late to go out and try to earn a retirement. It doesn't work. You need to be thinking about this earlier, and our society needs to make it easier to buy a house, things like that. And we're not doing that at all. We're just struggling right now to keep our hair from being on fire, and it demands that people sit down and politics aside and address the real problems. I don't see how we remove politics from this particular set of arguments here. We want to kill each other right now, and we've been doing it.
Yep.
Well, we can't even talk about the budget when we're so busy lighting our own house on fire with all the vitriol being spit between both aisles. But what, Dale, while you were speaking, I was on mute, and I was like, hell no. Of course they're not going to have more kids. They're not just taking fathers out of the home for women to also work. And you need a double income. Basically, you need two incomes to raise a single kid in America. And also, one of those incomes, when I was paying for daycare, and this was years ago, my kids are about to be high school, college age. Even years ago, I saw this problem coming because preschool and daycare tuition in the East Coast was already equal to a college tuition rate at like $3,400 a month for my kids. So basically, my entire paycheck while I was enlisted was going to childcare. I was enlisted just to have my kids somewhere else. And it's so frustrating because there's no enlisted pay probably represents about the average pay for middle America, if we're realistic. And we had this problem coming for a minute. It's not just the men who've been removed from homes. All of us are commodities, and we need to reframe the entire way that we're looking at it. First, it's just like a divorce. We got to get everybody in the room. We got to identify the problems, and we've got to manage ourselves when it comes to having this conversation, not getting into, I understand the pain of the past. Trust me, I do. But also, the more we dive into the whys and the hows of all of that, the harder it is to look at where we are now and then parse out how are we going to fix this. And it really does boil down like America is like a family. It's a metaphor. We can't sit and talk about the logistics of the operation if we can't even agree on fundamental decency and basic respect. And no, I am not faulting women, and I am so glad we have our reproductive rights, except I don't actually here in Texas. God forbid,
murder rights.
If someone knocked me up and as like a little cash grab or something,
that, are you? Come on.
I would never.
It's a murder rights.
Standards, bro.
It's murder
rights. Let's talk about the dating. I am. But let's talk about dating standards and sex and culture.
We're not going into all that because you guys are just talking about killing babies.
Y'all just don't know how crazy it is out there. I don't blame the women for not wanting to have children that they not only have to work outside of the home to provide for, but they are typically held to the highest responsibility for the entirety of their care. It's too much.
And in all fairness, I don't blame men for not wanting to have children, because of the fact that the court system is rigged against them every single step of the way. And all 100% it is. 150% it is, Shaun.
That's an old myth. That's an old myth.
It's not a myth. It's a fact.
States are moving.
It's 100% fact.
States are moving increasingly towards automatic 50-50 until they just.
It's 100% a fact. Guys get stuck with all the child support bill. They get their licenses taken away. Can't even hold a job because of child support. So stop the ridiculousness, Shaun.
Your support, that's your problem.
It is.
The support is there for the children. We just talked about how much it costs to have one kid. And if you decide to do it separately, you're both invested in this group project together. It's a mutual investment. And the support is to make sure that the child, whoever pays it, is provided for. And more states, more frequently, are defaulting to 50-50 and an offset support from the state guideline. So while I understand this myth that wants to perpetuate
it's
itself,
not a myth. It's reality.
It's a bit of
it's a reality.
It's
I know tons of people. That don't get to see their kids that owe crazy child support, that have their licenses taken away, everything else away, and there's no oversight on how the child support is spent, and so like it's just a totally screwed up situation every single which way. And I honestly feel sorry for the kids, because they're the ones that pay the ultimate price through all this. And so I would encourage you, unless you have a normal woman, don't have a baby with her, period.
I would encourage you, if you're a woman and you're going to have a child, be prepared to do it on your own and to finance it by yourself.
See, that's part of the whole problem. That's part of the whole problem right there, is that mindset right there. That's exactly part of the whole biggest problem of all of this in the whole situation, is that you're going into it with the mindset of being on your own and not as a team, as one unit. That's the whole problem. That's the root cause of it all right there. You have anything you want to say on this, Chris?
That's not the root problem.
It is.
The problem is when two people come together.
Hold on, Shaun. Let Chris get in here for a second.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an endless debate of man versus woman here. We're not gonna come to a conclusion, on this show with that. And there's, it's case by case. Everyone knows a couple where the father was toxic or the mother was toxic. It's definitely different from every family, but I'll just say that it's very obvious in our modern society that men and women have very divergent priorities in general, and that does not lead to a healthier nuclear family. And we could go in a whole wormhole about that, and I have a lot I can say about that also. I think it's something that's been contrived and done on purpose to break up very powerful families. We don't want people like the Kennedys, people coming from bootlegger families, to rise up to power in politics or in wealth anymore, and I think we've split it up. We're supposed to be in tribal communities. As the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Most of us don't have a village. We're paying for childcare. We're paying for we're so fragmented now. So, like I said, not to get too far down that wormhole, going back to the initial article, I think a big part of what they're doing there is trying to disqualify people from Medicaid, because they know there's not enough money to pay for everybody. We've all paid into this system. They've mismanaged those funds, and any excuse they can use to disqualify us will mask the fact that there's not enough money really to go around, and that someone's mismanaged it. And so I mean, obviously this is a hot topic. This got us all heated. And that's exactly what they're trying to do, is distract us from the real fact that they mismanaged the money, because we all paid into it. Where's our money? Yeah. We deserve that money at some point, right? So if it's something we all paid into, we should be able to get it back out, just like Social Security or anything. But they've slowly, quietly eroded these systems, and then they'll throw these hot topics at us. So we're all pointing the finger. It's the man's fault, the woman's fault, the welfare queen, whatever. But the reality is that we all paid into this system, and that money is not there when we want it back.
Fair enough. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
For that.
And we are back, you guys. We are back. Well, oh man, you are gonna love this, Shaun. Speaking of the kiddos,
oh, no.
Yeah. Speaking of the kiddos, Governor Greg Abbott, the hottest governor in Texas, signs an order banning minors from THC products. That's right. Governor Greg Abbott recently signed an executive order banning hemp and hemp-derived product consumption for minors and regulating its sale through though critics question its impact, because on September 10th, Abbott directed the Department of State Health Services and the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission to prohibit the sale of hemp-derived products to minors and require age verification upon purchasing for all customers. Retailers who violate the order will have their permits revoked, they say. Safety for the kids, freedom for adults, Abbott said in a post on X. Texas' growing hemp industry was left largely in the fate of consumers after Abbott vetoed Senate Bill 3 earlier this year. And since the 2018 Farm Bill legalized industrial hemp nationwide, Texas has seen rapid expansion in the market. The product remains legal under current interpretations of the federal and state law, as long as they contain no more than 0.3 Delta 9 THC by dry weight. As the executive order does not ban the product itself, some lawmakers, including Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and State Senator Charles Perry, remain dissatisfied. In a statement issued on Friday, Patrick argued that the order gives the current THC market a seal of approval. These are the same people who have been selling dangerous THC products to kids and teens for the last 4 years in thousands of locations across Texas, he said. They will continue to do so under this executive order without a ban. Chase Whitworth, Artisan Vapor and CBD Collins District Manager, said the governor's order represents a fair compromise and says, I personally feel that it's a good thing that this is happening. Cutting regulation on the use for minors to be attacked by the THC industry, Whitworth said. According to a report from Whitney Economics, THC acid, Delta 8 THC, Delta 9 THC, and Delta 10 THC, CBD, and cannabigerol are some of the most common hemp-derived products sold in Texas. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, cannabis affects brain development and functions, and specifically the parts of the brain responsible for memory, learning, attention, decision-making, coordination, emotions, and reaction time. The center said usage before 18 may affect how the brain builds connections for functions like attention and memory and learning, and the effects could be permanent. Patrick said the legislature never voted to legalize adult use marijuana or THC products sold now, but due to the loophole in hemp laws, highly potent THC products are being sold, which is why Senate Bill 3 was passed in the Texas House and Senate during the regular session, he says. Since the veto in late June, Abbott put the item on the agenda for 2 special sessions over the summer, and in a proclamation issued June 22nd, Abbott said SB 3, as written, would create a legal uncertainty for Texas farmers as the bill criminalizes the manufacturing, distribution, and sale of all consumable hemp products, regardless of whether they comply with federal laws' THC limits. The governor's latest order requires the Department of State Health and Services and the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission to immediately create an age limit, but does not prescribe when the restriction must take effect, and calls for both agencies to work with the Department of Public Safety to increase enforcement on existing rules. The Department of State Health Services is also required to begin reviewing the current rules within the 10 business days to possibly add stricter labeling and testing and improve record keeping to facilitate oversight and increase fees to support enforcement. Sid Miller, Texas Department of Agriculture Commissioner, said Abbott deserves praise for protecting minors from THC products while respecting the rights of adults. And it says, protecting our kids and defending our freedoms do not need to be at odds, Miller said. And although Whitworth supports increased protections for youth, he said he worries that ongoing debates and potential bans could hurt small businesses. Lots of these small mom and pop shops won't survive as well based off of that, he said. They won't be able to recover. Perry said in a post on X that the age restriction does not fix the problem, and it gives the industry what it wants by leaving the product on shelves and ensuring the legislature will not close the loophole. Well, duh. Come on, Perry. We know that. This is pretty obvious, buddy. And in a quote, they say, this debate isn't over, and I will not stop fighting until we secure real protections for our communities and prevent Texas from repeating the mistakes of other states, Perry said. Well, all I have to say is you might not be in office too much longer. You might be getting primaried pretty soon. So your time is running short, and I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about this.
Well, Charles Perry, that was a bit Georgian. That was a bit too Georgia.
Oh,
pull it over a little bit west and slow it down to get Charles Perry. But here, you want my prediction for what's going to happen? We're going to get full spectrum THC because it's obvious to everyone. Charles Perry, Governor Abbott, all of the operators, and all of the consumers, and everyone in Texas, because this has made some pretty big headlines, that this is all cannabis, all the same. Dale was laughing when they read the cannabinoids, and of course THCA was the leading cannabinoid. And look, I think we're gonna get some reasonable rules. 21 up, that's what we've been asking for as an industry for a while, for years, since 2020. And so that's well past due. And I think this opens the conversation for the rulemaking part now. So there will be hearings and public comment, and nothing can happen without that public comment. It's like a mini legislative session, but different rule sets, because these are agencies now. So, and Charles Perry's right. It did give legitimacy. This does mean Texas is coming online, it would appear. Now, the specifics of how are yet to be determined, but I like that Governor Abbott recognizes that the small businesses won't survive. And I'm hoping, because they're using HB 309 as their background context, like this is where we're starting. And 309 doesn't protect flower at all. It doesn't protect the farmers. Does kind of leave hemp language ambiguous, but here's what I think is going to likely pop off is that we're seeing law enforcement will probably go crazy just trying to run cases. Some folks will get hit in the interim while we're making these rules, but I don't think the cases will stick. So now the question is, can you survive your boat getting rocked for a bit? If that happens that way, there will be some operators who get pinched, but there's going to be a good number that don't, and that can survive this while we're waiting for this rulemaking. And also it doesn't change anything from what we were doing before, as long as you were already self-age gating. So your legal risk is just as much the same as it was before. And by the way, read the disclosure, high at 9. We're not giving you legal advice, and neither am I. This is my little prediction.
Shaun, I find it interesting that the governor didn't issue an age limit in his executive order, but left it up to those two agencies to figure out what age. I mean, to me, it's pretty simple. You know what I mean? Make it 21 and over. It's, you know what I mean? It's not that difficult.
Considering if there was a question, it would be for the veterans who sign up to serve at the age of 18. And may do a tour of duty and come out of their tour of duty before they hit 21. So that would be it, but I don't think
then he could have just said 21 and over, or if you're, in the military and you discharge, served, whatever, you bring your proof, and that could have been easily written in there, right, Dale?
I think we want to be a little bit hands off for making too many rules. You just want to do the minimum to make sure you don't get.
That is the minimum. That is the minimum right there. You're gonna call for age gating. You know what I mean? He should have put it in there. I don't understand why he's passing the buck and leaving time, and he's opening himself to criticism from people like Dan Patrick and the legislature by not putting that in there.
They got 21. They got 21 in.
No. It said in the thing that he didn't select a age, and that he said that he was leaving that up to those two agencies. Let me find it. The Department of Health Services to be to review.
Issues. Probably, maybe someone,
the Department of State Health Services and the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission to immediately create an age limit.
Could be 18.
I'm just saying he should have. He should have done that. He should have done that. He missed an opportunity.
Right now, we gotta everybody's got to.
What's that, Dale?
Some rules.
That should have been a no shit Sherlock.
I know.
The easiest thing to do is to just make it 21. See, the problem that we're all struggling with is that none of us was paying attention or even given a seat at the table when these laws were passed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think seeing, though, is the result of someone, probably a group representing.
There was people that were at the table. I've seen pictures of Abbott meeting with a number of different cannabis people there in Texas. So
they are trying to understand. That's why I was like, it is good he identified the small business need, because if they take flower off the table, this is a big red flag. Then you're misidentifying the small business need, because they'll all shut down. The retailers and stores will shut down. Everything will go back to web sales, and then you miss market opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're trying. And if they walked back 21, it was likely. And I don't know, guys, because I've had my head down. I'll be transparent. I've had my head down with the teacup application. I think what's going to happen is you're going to get your new teacup licensees, and you're going to get rules for hemp and full spectrum THC that have some parity with that. I don't know, but that's usually kind of how these things go. And Abbott is trying to keep his hands off because he didn't want to piss anybody off. They just redistricted Texas. Like, you don't want to anger the villagers anymore. Okay, it's enough. They got to let it chill for a bit. And the rulemaking gives some time. DPS has 10 days, but right now they're also receiving hundreds, maybe thousands of I don't really know on the teacup.
It doesn't say that they have 10 days. It says to immediately create an age limit, but it does not prescribe when the restriction must take effect.
No. They'll do the age limit immediately, but then they have to correspond to how they'll do the rulemaking process, and then we'll start.
Yes, that's correct. The rulemaking process is 10 days. Yes.
Yep. So just for y'all who are listening, who are in Texas, I think that there's still a lot of opportunity, and everything's going to land and parse out very well in Texas, but it still is going to require that full participation that we had throughout the entire legislative session. When these public hearings and rulemaking sessions begin, you'll need to participate in that. And then I think it is also worth saying, and we'll get into it when I cover my story, that they are closing the loop. You're seeing it in the judiciary. You're seeing it on the legislative side. Even though Dan Patrick is upset about the loss, it's done. And then you're seeing it also in law enforcement where things get executed. So I would say be fruitful and do what you're gonna do for what you need to do, but make sure you're dotting your I's, crossing your T's, and getting ready for the future, which is going to involve compliance. Just be ready, y'all. This cowboy thing that we had, this open market, this is going to shift.
Any thoughts on this, Dale or Chris, before we move on?
It's hard watching the sausage making process when
I love sausage.
Those of us who don't buy into the emotional truth that weed's going to ruin the world.
Yeah,
we're never enlightened, never given a seat at the table back when these laws were made. Now, there's places in the country where people like those of us on this program don't buy into the emotional truth that drugs are going to ruin the world. Mm-hmm. We just don't buy into that. Okay, but for people that's in their core, what we're seeing is the schizophrenia of the drug war.
Mm-hmm.
We're fighting about THCA when it's like for thousands of years, people have used pot to get high, and they want to do it. They're going to continue to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to make them stop by passing a prohibition law is just fucking stupid. But here we are talking about things that are emotional truths for people. We can't let anybody under 21 doing this. Well, you can go buy weed in the fucking high school, okay? So what are we actually trying to accomplish here other than just scoring a couple of points on a soundbite on a news show or something like that? We're not addressing the real problems here. And sausage making makes me nauseous when it comes to politics. So when they actually do something, okay, stop fucking talking and actually do something. Now we have something to really put our teeth into. But I just see dancing around the edges, and this is going to get eaten up by some of the politics that are involved in people trying to cancel somebody else's right to say what they think is their truth.
Mm-hmm.
They just killed somebody over that. That's not going to just go away, and the oxygen's going to be sucked out of the room, and I think some forces want that to happen. Okay, let's just make the big national discourse something else so this doesn't really have to get solved. It can continue to be the sausage-making process. And it's just, I've been watching this since the 1970s, so
yeah,
it's like I'm old and tired and cranky, and you guys have your head up your fucking asses about 4 feet, and you don't really want to fix the problem. You just want to continue to fight about it.
Yeah.
That's what I got to say.
Everybody wants to still dance around this idea of hemp in Texas, that it's, still hemp.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Abbott, especially, if he advocated for, age gating himself, he's basically implying that, all hemp is intoxicating and is the same as cannabis. And I think tongue in cheek, they all know that, but it's just their way of dancing around it in their, very political, speak. But at the same time, trying to develop, legislation to try to control and regulate it, eventually with the goal of taxing it. But it's just a funny roundabout way of them. Nobody wants to admit it. It's like this elephant in the room that they all want to dance around. Some people are like, we're completely against it. But, like I said, age gating is basically completely admitting that this is it's no different than medical or recreational cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Maybe that's why he's going to let the agencies do it, because look, there are other donors that they have to at least put a show on for. At the end of the day, you guys, it's how this is how it's all made. We all know this. It happens at multiple levels.
Theater. The whole thing is a theater. Yeah.
I love kabuki theater. I'd like to put my apron on, fry up some sausage, and hop into kabuki theater.
It's at least a good sign that we are gonna get the age gate. Maybe it'll be 18, maybe it'll be 21. I don't know. And we're gonna have more conversations about all of this. But right now, you've got time. Just watch yourself, because the law enforcement will try to make examples of a few folks and make sure you're someone who can withstand that heat. Because at the end of it, there's a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow, I hope.
Oh boy,
but Dale,
you're such a dreamer. You're such a dreamer.
Someone's got to do it out here.
Such a dreamer. Such a dreamer. Well, we're going to keep on this train rolling. We're going to roll right into attorney at law, Mr. Dale Schafer. Dale has been an attorney since the Reagan administration. He has represented physicians, hospitals, insurance companies, cops, corrections officers, and for the last 25 years, he has specialized in cannabis law. He served a 5-year federal prison sentence for helping medical marijuana patients and managed to save his law license. He's blunt. He doesn't smoke them because they're ratchet nasty. They turn your teeth yellow on top of other things, different colors too. But he is honest and he's unconcerned with your opinion, public opinions, and he will show you how he can defy gravity by pissing up a rope. That's right. It is your favorite Tio Loco. You can find him at his own law office at the law office of none other than Dale Schafer.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's your favorite crazy old sumbitch, Tio Loco. Lashidicus again.
Yeah.
My story comes out of MJ Biz Daily from yesterday. And the question or the headline presented is, does federal marijuana prohibition mean cannabis workers can't unionize? Okay, and this is from Chris Roberts yesterday. And this raises a question that is just so murky. It's hard to see what the answer is going to be. We have some past decisions that have been made by the National Labor Relations Board that are clear that cannabis employees can unionize. The problem is the NLRB does not have jurisdiction over agricultural workers, which creates somewhat of a mess in the industry because whatever they claim to put out as a directive or a decision isn't applicable to a lot of people in our industry because it's a plant. We have to grow it. Somebody has to grow it. And there's no federal protection for unionization there. But it opens up discussions about much bigger issues here. We've talked before about the split with federal law and state laws, and that just complicates problems here. National Labor Relations Act was one of the key New Deal bureaucratic state decisions that came up. I believe it was passed in 1935, just before the 36 election of FDR. And it went along with Social Security, was a big ticket item, and it set up a massive bureaucracy. National Labor Relations Board is the bureaucracy, the adjudication branch of the federal government over labor and union relations under the National Labor Relations Act. It sets up a 5-member panel. You got to have at least 3 on the panel for a quorum to make a decision. And right now they only have 2. They can't even make a decision today because there isn't a quorum to actually, take in some case and then issue some sort of a decision on it. And I know I've talked in the past about my frustration with the bureaucratic state. This is a part of the bureaucratic state that just frustrates the hell out of me. Because from the very beginning, there has been tension between those states that want to unionize and those that don't, who are what they call right-to-work states. Mm-hmm. And this is just a continuation of that. And one of to set the stage, under our Constitution, federal government has to find interstate commerce, be able to adjudicate in this area, because the Constitution doesn't give the federal government the power over internal union relationships inside of a state. It just doesn't. So how do we fix that? Well, FDR got this law passed and they developed this bureaucratic state. And if you're not aware of this right now, a lot of what Trump and his administration is doing is taking us back before this bureaucratic state was just embedded in our federal government. And it makes it difficult, if not impossible, to actually get shit done. What we have right now is only 2 members on the board. Trump has nominated somebody. They haven't taken a seat yet. There's empty seats that he's going to be able to fill. So the thought is, okay, I don't think Trump is waving union banners. That was Joe Biden. Okay? Trump is not. He's more in favor of right to work. Let businesses negotiate with their workers on what's best for them. Federal Supreme Court decisions have waxed back and forth about, states and individual workers' right the contract and the feds stay out of it. I think we're about to enter in some more campaigns like that, because there have been decisions that cannabis can unionize, and they can use the National Labor Relations Act to do that. I wouldn't make a large bet that that's how the NLRB is going to act once they get a quorum, or once they get 5 members. 3 new members are going to be appointed by Trump. These are 5-year positions, so they're going to be around for a minute, okay? And my suspicion is there's going to be a decision comes out that says either no, or we're staying out of this because we have no jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's against federal law. We are not going to get in the middle of this. If states want to do it, they can use their own state police power to set up laws that will aid in the unionization. Like we have here in California, it's still fairly controversial. You don't remember, I think it was Glass House that got a labor peace agreement with a union that you go, is this really a union, or is this just a ploy to get around this? There's a lot of gamesmanship going on here. And I don't know that we're in a period where unions are going to be able to strap on their work vest and go out there and just slay the dragon. I don't know that we have that right now. And so I'm not hopeful that the feds are going to uphold at a national level union workers in the cannabis industry's right to go to the federal government and use the NLRB and the federal courts to try and enforce this. I'm not hopeful. I'm going to throw this back to you guys for your comments, because we're going to have to just watch and see how this rolls out. But, I'm not going to make a large bet that these unions are going to win on this.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dale, I totally agree with you. I think if they do try to take this to a higher court, they are going to get slapped back down. And it could have more implications on the labor force that they currently don't have and aren't expecting with a negative judgment. They should really be careful with trying to advance this right now.
Well, I don't see the federal government as really stepping up to make this position they're willing to put a lot of resources into.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now, it's a federal crime to grow marijuana, period.
Yep.
I went to prison for it. Even though the state said, oh, what you're doing is perfectly legal, they can still throw you in prison. Okay. And under the iteration of Rohrabacher-Farr, there's a Supreme Court decision that if you're following state medical marijuana laws, and you can't use resources. But that's not a law. That's a continuing resolution. That can go away tomorrow. Okay, so don't put a whole lot of stock into that. Okay? And if you're going to go to the federal courts, which is the next step beyond the NLRB and the bureaucratic process, okay,
when
you go to federal court, if I represent, I'm going to say, look, this is against federal law. How can you be here exercising jurisdiction when these people are engaged in conduct that is criminal under federal law?
Mm-hmm.
That's the position I would take. Okay, so I just think this is murky, and there's a pendulum swing back away from what Biden did to enhance union power. Okay, and my grandpa was a Teamster, so I'm not trying to shit on any unions right now. Okay, but I represent a lot of small businesses who are struggling to pay their bills, and they would like to not have this pressure on them. But from the worker standpoint, unions bring up the wages, working condition. Okay? So I recognize all that stuff, but there isn't a clear answer, especially when the potential for RICO is out there. Okay, and we haven't really talked about the potential for RICO at the federal level, but it's being thrown about right now in a lot of spheres, and this one is ripe for it. If you are conspiring to break federal law, okay, that's most of the elements of a RICO charge right there. Now, what do we do with that? I would hope they wouldn't take that position, but my standpoint as an attorney, I think the ammunition is better on the government side, okay, or for employers that are fighting against unions than it is for unions here. And I'm not saying that because I'm taking a side. I'm saying that because I've been doing this for a long time.
That's the lead. You see where you see where the chips are, and that's where they're going to fall.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Dale is spot on with this. And the reality is, in this next iteration, because you have to look at the rules, what they make, the rules that are set now are going to impact us for the next 4 to 5, even longer. And the rulemaking, look, the folks who are making the rules right now have gotten to where they've gotten through litigation and by deregulating some of these problems, or how they view it. And Dale is just, before I was laughing a bit before, and the energy was a bit like how they built the Dallas Cowboys, or how we build our government, or how you build a cannabis empire. Like, it's all, there's an art and a science and a level of repeat pattern recognition in each one of them. But on this one, you're just calling the football game exactly how it is. You're letting folks know that this administration is not likely, one, to prioritize it, but then also, do you want their attention in a lawsuit, right? Like, do you want their attention right now? Because I'm not sure that they're going to lean in your direction. So I would be careful. I don't know. The future that we're looking at, and it's the same as like what I was saying earlier, be prepared to do everything independently as much as possible, whether it's raising a kid or paying for your retirement or negotiating your labor contract, because the future that we're looking at is looking more and more to be that way. And you're going to have to develop some teeth and be able to cut your way through a little bit, not in a negative, I got to get mine and hurt others way, but you're going to have to be able to pick up your sword and defend yourself a little bit more these days, because I think Dale's totally spot on. I think we're going to see some reversals, and you're going to have to fight for what you want and know how to get it.
I agree with that pretty well too. We live in a time of fierce privatization and individualism, and that's obvious. And I have nothing against unions, but it really does seem like a 20th century idea that we're trying to apply to a 21st century workplace. And being a cannabis cultivation worker manager myself, been doing this for many years. I'm in the middle of it. I see that the amount of scrutiny that we have to go through just to hire workers, level 2 background checks, FBI level 2 background checks, you name it. And most cultivation workers have such high turnover. You're lucky to get a year out of an employee before they leave. And most of these jobs are more or less low skill jobs, unfortunately, especially the ag related ones. And that's what this article is specifically talking about, is ag workers. So I'm guessing they're not covering bud tenders and retail employees. But from what I understand, I know in other states they've tried to unionize, bud tenders and all that as well. And that's my question, is what are the unions or the people trying to unionize trying to achieve? Is it better pay? I know as an operator, as a manager, we have so much oversight, so much scrutiny that we have to give employees their breaks. We have to do, provide everything. Obviously with the mom and pop size companies, a lot of them aren't able to provide things like insurance and other benefits. But I think a lot of labor unions were initially started with the idea of worker protection, of keeping the workers from being abused. But a lot of these companies, and Glass House is an exception. There's a couple states and markets that have been allowed to be rogue. A lot of operators in California don't have that level of oversight as they do in Michigan or Florida or New York or New Jersey or something like that. But in most mature markets, we got so many different state departments up our ass that what's the union really going to achieve? There's only so much of a ceiling that the company's able to provide. And then the workers leave anyway. So by the time they get onboarded by a union, pay their dues, all of that, historically, a lot of the employees have moved on to a different industry, to a different company. It's so complicated that I don't see what the benefit is. And like I said, nothing against unions, nothing against those those employees themselves, I understand that they have their rights, but it's just, it's like everyone's backed into such a corner. There's not a lot of wiggle room anyway.
Fair enough. And on that, we got to roll into our next commercial. Shaun, can you make it quick?
Yeah, super quick. It's just that I think it's frustrated employees and a miscommunication, and then unions promise the world and then they don't deliver, and it's that same repeat cycle. That's why still I'm an advocate for figure your shit out, because your best advocate in your life is you, my friends.
And
that's it.
And interesting on just on that, Nick Bradley in the chat, he says, if you pay your employees a livable wage, they won't want to unionize because they also have zero benefit from a union. And Steve Blessingham in the chat, he said, I'm not really a union guy, and using unions that aren't weed specific seems horrible to me.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't. I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months. I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me. We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created. Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees? All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
And we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. And YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And make sure that you do check out our 9/11 special of what really happened. My conversation with Congressman Kurt Weldon of Pennsylvania and Congressman Dana Rohrabacher of California on all of the ups and downs, so to say, of what really happened on 9/11.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfer, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
Oh, and we are back. And we are going to roll right into Miss Shaun Salvaje. She's a mom. She's a veteran. And she's a mediator that can help keep your ass out of court and possibly save some money on all of your legal bills that you won't actually have if you get through it in mediation. That's right. It is none other than Miss Shaun Salvaje.
Thank you, Jason. I'm Coming to you from Texas with a dose of reality. My story is a KVU broadcast where they very briefly talk about a new Texas Supreme Court decision, or less a decision, more of a rejection, a declination. So Texas says, I decline. But the Texas Supreme Court won't hear a challenge to the state's rejection of local marijuana decriminalization. Kyle Yeager also has a story on Filter Mag, and we can get you the link for that. So the Texas Supreme Court has declined to take up an appeal of a case concerning the state's overturning of a local cannabis decriminalization, or marijuana in this case. We don't have to make those arguments, but a local marijuana decriminalization law that was approved by voters in the city of San Marcos about 5 months after the state's 15th Court of Appeals rejected a lower court ruling that denied a temporary injunction. So for a bit, we had temporary injunction. That's how things have been getting done for a good bit here in Texas. To prevent the law from being enforced, the state Supreme Court on September 12th sidestepped the case. Texas, this is a quote from Katina Vollinger, who's the executive director of Ground Game Texas. She says the Texas Supreme Court refused to hear this case, siding with Governor Greg Abbott's handpicked judges and telling 82% of San Marcos voters their voices do not matter, which was... The thing is that these reforms were passed by voter initiative, ballot initiative on the city level, which is the only way that Texas voters can actually pass direct initiatives. We don't have statewide voter ballot initiatives. That's why our legislature is the way that it is, and as intense as it is, but it only meets every 2 years. And that's done with design, got to slow things down. But so this court's ruling, they're saying that the court's decision represents a direct attack on local democracy and the working people of San Marcos, who came together to demand a better future, which is valid and fair criticism. Here's what I see in the tea leaves is they know that we're closing this loop. They know that they're figuring it out, and the judiciary isn't gonna, and Dale, I'd love your opinion on why they probably declined or chose to sidestep. But they know that something's coming and they don't want to get in the way. And the judiciary had already indicated that they might respond in such a way. If you'll recall, a few months ago, we had several injunctions that got over that. They said, you know what, while this is pending, it's okay. We're going to go ahead and enforce, and we're not going to wait for this case to be finalized. So that just tells you something. But the lower court's ruling and the subsequent Supreme Court inaction mark a setback for activists who led the charge to enact local marijuana policy changes through the ballot, many of which have been contested by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who actually could be primaried. To your point earlier, Jason, Charles Perry, not likely. He, I think, has run unopposed in Lubbock for a long time. It would take some real fresh blood and probably some Republicans, some new Republicans. But Texas has the biggest working class population in the country, with most making $15 an hour or less. Meanwhile, millionaire politicians like Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton twist the courts to protect themselves and their rich donors. Katina said, they think we don't see what's happening, but we do. We know exactly how hard they have made it to survive here. Whew. They spend all their time trying to block us because they know the truth. The power is with us, and we are building a movement that cannot be stopped. Fair. I do think it takes this kind of energy from our activists as much as possible to ensure that the voter ballot initiatives are respected, because once we start not enforcing what the voters have actually put forward, then we are in one area, then we can apply this in other areas, and that's a slippery slope no one wants to go down. But at the same time, I recognize that the court is likely sidestepping this because something is coming down the pipe and no one wants to get in the way And also, no one wants to make a big show of it. You know, if it was a Democrat issue or if the Democrats were in power, they probably would. But they're not going to make a big show of it on the Republican side, given donor ties and on both sides, for prohibition and against it, probably. Like, let's get real, guys. The money's complicated. So this judicial decision is very disappointing, but it is also indicative of the fact that there will be rulemaking and decisions, and the local decrim efforts, they don't want those to supersede what state law has put forward. Now the question is, should they have that authority, or should local cities be allowed to decriminalize to the level that they wish per voter ballot initiatives? In a state like Texas with redistricting and gerrymandering and other voter suppression issues, I don't know how they're going to land on that one, friends, but I'll give it back to the room.
Oh man, well, I mean, the gerrymandering is, I mean, they're doing that here in California, and they're about to gerrymander the state to where they're not going to be able to gerrymander anymore. And
the voter representation.
What's that?
Is there a state that doesn't do that? I think
exactly. Yeah, you're exactly right, Chris. All of the states do it. It is what it is, and you know what I mean. I get it, but I do think overall that these municipalities should be able to enact these decriminalization bills without the threat of Big Brother trying to come after them. After all, they are designated through elections of being in charge of their different territories and of the people that inhabit those different regions. And if they think that it's a good use of funds to put something like this through, so then that way they can allocate resources to things that are really detrimental to society overall, I think is a total win, and it just makes more sense.
Yeah, every local municipality should have the right to set their own policing priorities. Yeah. I think unfortunately a lot of police departments are looking at it from a revenue standpoint as well, and a lot of those local municipalities may not have that regulatory control over their own police departments. So, and you have so many different ways that it's structured. You know, some towns are home rule, some states are Commonwealth. So for every state to, you know, say that municipalities can set overarching rules over what the state laws are is very hard to say. But in a perfect world, you know, when you have a community of people that, you know, overwhelmingly support one thing, you know, everything should reflect that. But obviously, that's not the case in Texas. Go ahead, Dale.
Well, and when you stand back and look at the what we call stare decisis, the precedents that get set, if a Supreme Court makes a decision, it's binding in every jurisdiction throughout the state. Okay, we're talking the state now. And every jurisdiction has an appellate court to it. What we have here is an appellate court decision that they weren't going to honor votes of the people in a particular municipality. Okay, but that is advisory. It's not binding on any other appellate court in the state. It's a general statement. If it had gone to the Supreme Court, either way, that would have been binding authority across the whole state. So it's keeping doors open, I would say, within the system that we have. Now, for those of you that are from California, will remember back until the early 2000s, California had Republican governors, Republican attorney generals. Okay, and there was a pissing match in our state between Terrence Hallinan, who was the district attorney of San Francisco, who told our Republican attorney general, Dan Lundgren, go fuck yourself. I won't enforce marijuana laws. Okay, the city of Oakland passed some ordinances, prioritize things and stuff like that. Sort of the same pissing match you're having in Texas right now. And we finally got an initiative passed in California that took it out of the hands of these competing political interests because they just wanted to fight about shit and didn't want to solve any problems. And it was an ideological fight like you're seeing in Texas. Republicans here in California did not want weed to be legal. Okay. Voters did. And so they passed it. And, the sphincters, you can still feel them tighten up. And when 215 passed in the late 1990s, like, we're tired of you guys fighting about this. Stop it. Now you bounce forward 3 decades, and we're having the same fight in Texas. So I don't know that this is as bad as it could have been. The Supreme Court could have taken it up and said, absolutely, cannabis is a statewide law. No municipality can make any law about it. That still doesn't change the reality that on the street, if you have real crime, people are robbing, stealing, rape, and hurting each other, okay? You got a chance to enforce against somebody who's smoking a joint or got a couple of plants in their backyard. The beat cop wants to go after real crime. You can't fix that. If the cops decide, hey, I don't have the time for the fucking paperwork and the court appearances and shit, to arrest you for smoking a joint, they'll do what we used to in California. They'll just dump it in the gutter until you get the fuck out of here. They can't stop that. And that's the sort of democratic pressure that's moving across the country.
Yep.
Do something about this that actually makes sense. Then it opens the door for the schizophrenia about the drug war and how in the fuck did we get here? Why are we still doing this shit? Okay. The hemp thing is a stupid battle. It used to be that in the day when they stuffed this into warships and made ropes and sales out of it, no one questioned what's hemp.
Yeah.
We make sales out of it. You roll up a joint and smoke it. It's like, it just makes you sick to your stomach. Okay. But if you got weed, we know what weed is. Now it's turned into this stupidest goddamn fight could ever have, because from a factual basis, it makes no difference. But this is an example of emotional truths that people have. People will believe emotional truths in a New York minute. You cannot get them to let go of it. That's what's happening at the statewide level and even the municipalities in Texas right now. Is that the government's like, oh, we don't want to do this. And the people are going, yeah, look at what we're doing with our pocketbooks. We want this shit in the stop and robs. We want to be able to buy weed. Okay, we don't want this nonsense. And when you make a vote for that, get stomped on in a way that the Republican Party should be ashamed of acting like this, because it's supposed to represent the will of the governed. And that's you cannot fix the schizophrenia here because they're acting in ways based on their emotional truths. When you bring up, that actually, THCA is just unheated weed, okay? And you guys are just being stupid, and they're buying it in a goddamn gas station, and anybody that wants to get it can get it.
Yep.
I mean, explain the schizophrenia here. They don't want to do that because weed's going to ruin Western society. Okay?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Stand back and watch this insanity.
It's crazy. Hopefully they get it together, and we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply
oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, I left one, and I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where do I even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. And we are back. Coming up next, it's Mr. Chris Vaos. Chris Vaos is a seasoned cannabis industry professional with over 15 years of experience in commercial cultivation. He has led large-scale indoor, greenhouse, and outdoor operations across various U.S. markets, specializing in cultivation optimization, team leadership, and cost-efficient scaling. With a background in engineering and a data-driven, science-based approach, Christopher consistently delivers strong results in plant health, productivity, and operational efficiency. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Chris Vaos.
What's going on? This next story comes from the Great White North of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota nice. I think that's going to be a great market. I got a friend from LA who's got a license there. But getting into it, Minnesota has begun distributing some of the revenue raised by marijuana's legalization to communities harmed by past cannabis prohibition laws. In recent weeks, the state's Office of Cannabis Management announced it is sending out $1 million in grant funds to nonprofits across the state for projects designated to uplift marginalized communities, especially those who were over-policed and racially profiled under Prohibition. It's really about righting the wrongs of the past, said Jess Jackson, the office's director of social equity. It's a reparative program. Drug enforcement has been disproportionately impacted people of color in Minnesota and across the country. In 2020, before cannabis was legalized in the state, the American Civil Liberties Union reported that Black people were 5.4 times more likely than white people to be arrested for marijuana possession in Minnesota, even though people of both races use marijuana at comparable rates. The Can Renew Community Restoration Grant funds are expected to grow as the cannabis industry takes off and the state collects more tax revenue from it, Jackson explained. Next fiscal year, as more facilities are expected to be licensed and up and running, the grant fund will increase from $1 million to $11 million. Now that the drug has been legalized recreationally, Jackson said, it's important that the cannabis industry benefit all Minnesotans and especially those affected by the war on drugs. One of those communities is Steele County in southeastern Minnesota, about 65 miles south of Minneapolis. The local United Way chapter is getting a $100,000 grant to create a new teen center in Owatonna. I think I'm saying that right. It's one of 11 community organizations to receive funds this year and one of only 3 in greater Minnesota. Annette Duncan, president of the United Way of Steele County, said that many of the youth they work with have parents or family members who have been incarcerated due to substance abuse. She explained that a third of the county's residents live in poverty and are just one crisis away from it. Duncan said that one thing she hears over and over again from the teenagers they work with is that we need a safe place that's not home and that's not school that we can go to, because there really isn't any place like that for us.
Mm-hmm.
That should exist for whether there's cannabis or not. The new community center will provide everything from homework help to support groups around racial identity, sexual orientation, and substance use prevention. She said she's especially hopeful that the center will help teens navigate mental health challenges, which is a huge concern. When you're in a rural community that's the size of like our whole county is, only 37,000 people, and when you have our youth dying by suicide, at least one a year or one every other year, that's too many. She said organizations focus on giving teenagers in town more opportunity. That's what it comes down to. Duncan said, how can we give them more positive options and mentorship and leadership opportunities so they can make the best choices possible for themselves? The other 2025 Can Renew grant awardees are a bunch of companies that probably most of us haven't heard of. You can check the article on mprnews.org. But Affinity Care, Beltrami, Area Service Collaborators, Girls Dream Code, looks like a bunch of organizations. You know, we've talked about this before. Social equity, I think, means well. It looks good on paper. I don't know, in my experience, working with startups, working in the industry, how much of an impact it really has to those that were directly affected by the drug war. A lot of times it's just a way to look good on paper and siphon the money just kind of back to the people that had money already in the first place. You know, it's kind of a way to shine a turd. And, you know, in a state that just recently passed legalization, it may be a way to appease some counties and municipalities that would otherwise try to ban it by allocating this money. But, you know, if you have $1 million, for example, and you have 100 licensees and you're spreading that out, that's $10,000 per licensee. You know, for example, $100,000 going to United Way. How much is that really? You know, these nonprofits pay themselves salaries, and how much of that money is really trickling down to the people that actually need it? That's always my criticism of these kinds of programs. Obviously, you know, my heart goes out to anyone that was directly affected by the drug war, but in my experience, this just doesn't work in practice. What do you guys think?
Man, I love your assessment on this, Chris, because I am totally with you. I was like, holy shit, this is like 420 USAID all over again. Like, these guys are just giving money to these different nonprofit groups when they should be giving money to people that were actually affected. And there's no stipulation from what I saw in this as to how these organizations spend the money. So they're going to spend the money on some programs, some little feel good conferences or whatnot, and this and that. And again, I bet you a bulk of it will go into salaries and whatnot. And, I'm sure some of it will go into printed materials as well. But it doesn't sound like anything is getting done other than they're just getting a little pat on the back and trying to make, you did so great. Da, 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 da. This sounds like a total bunch of bullshit and a waste of $1 million. It's disgusting.
Yeah, no, hold on. The cannabis industry will bring in way more millions, right? How much? It's $1 million bucks that we just...
Let me tell you something, Shaun. $1 million that's being said that is being spent on social equity that's not going to social equity, that's going to nonprofit groups that don't do anything with social equity is a total waste of money and a sham. And there should be some type of doge that comes in here and regulates on these people.
Yeah,
not everybody is a sham. Some of these are, first of all, these aren't licensees. These are youth.
That's part of exactly my point.
I think I'm going to just have to dissent. And I think if we have billions of dollars we can make, I'm from Minnesota. I grew up split between Texas and Minnesota. Hold up. I grew up split between Texas and Minnesota. And I do feel if there is a place where we can give a youth center money and create opportunity for something else, in areas like Minneapolis that were disproportionately affected, and we can create opportunity for a better future for community reinvestment, which, yes, I understand some nonprofits are bad, but some nonprofits will spend your money and they really needed that $50,000 and they'll do something incredible with it. I'm not going to shit on all nonprofits or this program, especially $1 million bucks. We got a lot to make. We got some to give. I don't know about
they're all grifters, in my opinion.
A program like this to really work, first of all, everyone that's sitting in prison in the state prison in Minnesota for nonviolent cannabis charges,
put the money on their books. Put some money on their books.
Reverse everyone's convictions, clear their criminal records, and then find the black guy from the neighborhood that was dealing weed and give him a retail license. Just give it to him.
Agree with you wholeheartedly, but I'm not taking money from the kids. These are separate pots of gold. I'm giving $1 million to the kids.
No, this is not. This is Shaun. No, this is their social equity.
That whole emotional truth. You throw kids into it, and people get all butthurt.
Yeah, I work in nonprofits. I work in nonprofits. There are tons of nonprofits that do great work.
This is their social equity allocation that needs to be designated for social equity expenses, and giving it to the United Way is not social equity. It's total bullshit.
Renew community restoration grants. This is the money that was set aside to reinvest in Minnesota. It's these are different monies we're talking about.
This is grifting.
I have never seen it work.
Exactly. Thank you, Dale.
I mean, I qualify for social equity. Just so we're on out front there. I went to prison for weed. Okay? So I qualify for social equity. It's meant for people other than me. I'm the wrong skin color. I've still got a law license. I can make money. Okay. But the big problem we have is that people still see the cannabis industry as a source of money. Okay. Positively flowing into somebody's bank account somewhere, rather than trying to put it into the perspective of undoing war on drugs. Okay. You throw kids in there, and like you said, Chris, it hits emotional triggers, and people want to, let's throw money at helping kids. Okay, well, I'm all into helping children. But what we've seen here in California is that they were throwing all these millions of dollars out to these groups to try and support children. And then the money dried up, and these groups now feel entitled, and they will refuse to change anything because they feel entitled to get their money. And, there's no more money there. Okay. This is an ill thought out approach. I agree with the principle. We need to go expunge these records. You shouldn't even have to fucking ask. Okay. Cops have records of everyone who's been convicted of this. Everyone's went to prison. Everyone's got a criminal record. we have fought, uphill battles here in California just to get the DAs to agree to release people from prison and expunge these records. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
We all agree it's wrong. Okay. Why can't they just do it without having to be told? Okay. Because it all depends on money.
Well, this
is a flow of cash and money places. And it's going to go in this. And I would love to see the people that went to prison or their families went to prison because of weed, able to put in the front of the line. What I've seen is that I've helped put them there. And then it's like, well, when the big money people can take over, I get some cash and I walk away.
Mm-hmm. Now,
is that what we're trying to do here? Because that's what's actually happening. Or these social equity people now are just being bent over and
exactly
practiced.
Okay? Exactly. This is
they get put on a board for a big company because they don't have the money themselves, and they are going to sit on the board and be marginalized. Their decisions aren't going to be factored into the direction of the business. And as soon as that company can legally buy them out, they will, and that's the only benefit they're going to get.
Yeah, and the recipients of this grant are as follows: Affinity Care Minnesota in Bloomington was awarded $100,000. Beltrami Area Service Collaboration is awarded $100,000. Girls Dream Code is awarded $50,000. Hired is awarded $85,000. Ignite After School is awarded $75,000. Intentions is awarded $100,000. Metropolitan Economic Development Association is awarded $70,000. And Vermilion County School is awarded $100,000. Walker West Music.
I guarantee you at least half of those have some kind of nepotism or connection to the source of that.
We should really know before we speak.
Walker,
we should know before we
let me finish. Hold on. Walker West.
But I'm willing to put some money on that.
Walker West Music Academy is awarded $50,000, and finally, World Youth Connect is awarded $100,000. Now, none of these in here, none of these groups in here in their titles say that they deal with social equity. None of them whatsoever.
They're in cities where they don't have resources, or they're in areas that were affected disproportionately by the war on drugs. And these are the children of that. And then we wanted to start the top of this show arguing about removing fathers and people from the family, but then we don't want to provide the support services.
I'm all providing actual support, but these organizations are grifters.
About crooked nonprofits, have your doubts about your crooked nonprofits in California, but that does not color the picture for everyone.
Crooked nonprofits across the entire country, not just in California, Shaun.
It doesn't. There's tons of nonprofits that do incredible work. Lots of nonprofits did the work in Texas to get us as far as we did. And it wasn't the extremely well-paid lobbyists who got it to where it got to. So I'm not going to sit here and shit on nonprofits. I understand the frustration that they haven't done enough, and I agree wholeheartedly. But if we're funding programs that are taking care of our youth, the kids who are actually bearing the consequence of all of this, not just the parents, then I'm all for it. And if they're mismanaging their funds, then we'll get to that issue. But to make the accusation off the top is ludicrous.
I don't think it's ludicrous, but I will say this: it would have been a better use of funds if they would have identified 20 social equity applicants that actually qualified for social equity and just gave them all $50,000 as a grant. That would have been a much better use of funds than what is all going to go to all of these different organizations.
You want to help the kids?
Yeah.
Free their fathers that are in jail for selling weed.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
And a bigger picture, if you want to do something to help people, okay, the question is, do you do it through a governmental bureaucracy or entity, or do you bring in nonprofits?
Mm-hmm.
Because both of them have waste in the system. They got to pay for the people there. And so rather than having a discussion which is more efficient here, we don't even get into those discussions.
Mm-hmm.
We just automatically, polarized here. It doesn't fix the problems. We in this country do not dare put out a list of our priorities of what we're going to do for the human beings that live here, because it creates the polarization. We don't really agree on who we're trying to help with any government money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this last election just pointed out that the vast majority, the big middle class here thought, Neither party talked for me. I get it at my kitchen table. I ask, how do I pay my rent? How do I feed my kids? How do I pay my, my car payment? Is my job secure? That's what people in the middle of the country are trying to figure out right now. And they've seen bureaucracies just do stupid, wasteful things. If any of you give it to nonprofits, they also have an overhead, and there's a cost there, okay? And what is it we're trying to accomplish? I have not seen a declaration of what our goals are, because then we bring up this thing called accountability. The government is horrible at accountability, absolutely horrible, okay? And some nonprofits are too. But what are our target? What are we trying to do here? Because it's simple to just, make a call to the prison. Hey, prisoner XYZ, bag him up and send him home. He's done. Okay? Your record's expunged. That should be easy to do. But that's a problem right now. And we can't even agree beyond that what to do. And it's just very frustrating because I'm a cynic because I'm an old, disheartened idealist. Okay, I had a lot of ideals I thought were going to happen in my lifetime, and I'm looking at them and going, you guys could fuck up a wet dream.
Yep.
Okay. And why do we not sit down, order some pizza, a few beers, close the door? What are our goals? And we agree on that. Let's keep them simple, stupid. Let's put money into it with goals in our sight. Make sure we're reviewing, is our money being well spent? Are we achieving our goals? Nobody wants to do that because, the government operates on inefficiency. Okay? Some things you just throw money at. It's what we do.
Yep.
But not everything.
That's a great George Carlin quote is, behind every cynic is a disappointed idealist. And I feel like, I'm not quite at your age, Dale, but I feel the same way. I was an idealist at one point. But we also have to consider the nomenclature that a nonprofit is really just a way to structure a company. It does not mean the same thing as true altruism. That's not to say that all nonprofits aren't altruistic or aren't trying to help people, but it's just a way to structure money and structure a company. And there's plenty, every billionaire owns a nonprofit, right? So think about that. It's a way to dodge taxes. It's a way to move money around in other ways. You can hire your wife, your cousin, your brother, and pay them all the max salary that's allowed under a nonprofit, as long as the company doesn't show a profit. And you can do that to whatever ends that you want through that nonprofit. And okay, I feed children. I bought them all a Happy Meal once a year, and I'm paying myself a fat ass salary, and I have a nonprofit, and that's perfectly fine.
Fair enough. Well,
that triggers the cynic in me, Chris, because I remember thinking that, this is a way just to help people, and the story now is when you put money into the government bucket, how many holes does it have in it?
Yep.
Okay. And by the time it gets to a nonprofit, which has its own holes in it, you just described some of them, and the average person who's working as hard as they can to pay for childcare and food on the table is looking at this going, this is a fucking scam. Okay. And even though I agree we should fix this, the way you're asking me to fix it has been proven to not work. Okay. And I'm here to tell you, I wanted this to work. I got paid to make it work. I helped set it up. And then you go, okay, well, the way the system is working, you might get some cash on the way out, but you just were a shoehorn to get a big company in to run this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you're checking out at Safeway, and they ask you, do you want to round up for starving children?
Hell no.
Or do you want to just feed a starving child?
Hell no. I'll buy.
Say no, you're the asshole.
I'm more than happy to do my grant writing so that way I can secure checks like this for well-deserving organizations.
I think I'm good. I think that's fair. I think that's fair, and I think that I'm saying that is needed. But this is a total.
I think y'all are losing a bit of the humanity, and not everyone is conspiring to ruin everything for everyone. And private organization, government, or nonprofit, they're human run and there's human error. And that doesn't mean that everybody is bad. That would be like us making the same assessment of everyone in the cannabis industry is a bad actor, right? That it's unfair. and it's not. It's come on, guys.
I didn't say that every nonprofit was bad, Shaun. I'm just saying a majority of them are. A majority of them are totally ridiculous. And the fact that these nonprofits received money that's supposed to be designated for social equity is a total sham. That's all that I'm saying. But nonetheless, we're going to roll into our final story of the day, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this, especially you, Dale, because I don't understand why this hasn't been done to more people. I'm so confused by this, because a Torch Lake man is accused of tax evasion with marijuana business has been charged, you guys. That's right. A Torch Lake man accused of tax evasion in connection with his illegal Otsego County marijuana grow operation has been charged, officials said. Joseph Willoughby, 50, was arraigned Tuesday in the 54A District Court in Lansing. Attorney General Dana Niesel said in a statement, he is charged with 3 counts of filing a false or fraudulent income tax return and a 5-year felony, the Attorney General said. A magistrate set his bond at $3,000 and scheduled Willoughby's next court hearing for Thursday, that would be today, according to court records and the Attorney General's office. Willoughby's attorney, Matthew Borgula, was not immediately available for comment on Monday, and authorities allege the defendant ran an illegal marijuana growing and distribution operation in Otsego County before 2019 and 2021. Michigan State Police executed a search warrant at Willoughby's home in October of 2021 and found more than 1,000 marijuana plants as well as more than 50 pounds of processed marijuana. Prosecutors said the defendant failed to file income tax returns for the business, and in a quote, they say, large-scale illegal marijuana operations deprive our state of revenue that funds critical services, Nessel said. I appreciate the efforts of the Michigan State Police Marijuana and Tobacco Investigation Section. My office will continue to hold accountable those who attempt to skirt their tax obligations. Willoughby is among the Michigan residents recently accused of tax evasion, and in October, an Oakland County man pleaded guilty to failing to pay about $318,000 in federal income taxes for his law firm. Last September, a Macomb County couple that owned home health care companies was sentenced to prison for Medicare fraud and tax evasion, and authorities claim the two willfully avoided paying about $602,154.91 in taxes. And 2 years ago, a former owner of a Warren marijuana dispensary was found guilty of tax evasion, obstructing the IRS, and willful failure to file a tax return, and his actions resulted in more than $1 million loss in tax revenue, authorities said. Well, I don't understand. They got an illegal grow operation. Why isn't this happening to more if they're doing it just now? I'm confused, Dale. What is going on with this? I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, as you know, Minnesota just recently legalized weed.
Yeah.
It used to be that when it was a felony, these were all potential charges. But the quickest route was just to charge them with a crime.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the stuff just walked away from. Okay. Now, when the criminal aspect is lowered, either it's not a crime or it's a misdemeanor or something like that, other potential things begin to show a little more interest, because now it gives you the right to go in and confiscate their property.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the criminal case, you can get a forfeiture order and things like that, and it does work to a certain extent. But when it's a criminal charge for tax evasion, now you open up another area of our bureaucracy that can get orders to come in and just grab your shit and take it.
Mm-hmm.
It also sends a message out there that we're watching. Be careful. Anybody that grows illegal weed and sells it is looking at the same potential charge anywhere in our country. Okay, the feds could do the same thing. Okay.
I don't understand why they don't.
Well, there's Rohrabacher FAR iteration. I don't know, what is it, McClintock, whatever now.
Yeah.
I can't remember. That's still, and there's the Ninth Circuit decision out here. No, you can't go after people in the medical industry.
Well, we understand that. We understand that, but if it's designated illegal, like this was an illegal trap grow, and so that's what I'm saying. Why doesn't that happen to, you know what I mean? Like the illegal Chinese grows that they just found, in Maine and in Oakland, and you know what I'm saying, across the country. Why don't they do that in more of these cases that we see? This is the first time that I'm seeing of anyone even doing that for this type of a situation.
Probably because those guys aren't filing taxes in the first place. He outright lied on his taxes, and that's an easy felony for them to hit on.
Interesting.
there's that,
and
then you would have to have
black market. It's like, what, you know, what's the cliche saying? It's like, it's not a felony to not file your taxes, but it is a felony to lie on your taxes.
Mm-hmm. It's a harder proof problem.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got a certain amount of dollars and you're a district attorney or an attorney general, you're looking at your resources. You've got to allocate resources to where you can get the maximum result, or whatever they conceive as a maximum result. You're going to stop somebody from doing something, and you arrest them, and you can make an easy conviction, and they're going to plead to it. You don't fuck around with the rest of this stuff, because it's harder. Okay, you put your money there, you take the plea, and you move on. But now that it becomes legal, it's a different phenomenon. Who's going to prosecute these things? The Department of Justice doesn't show any interest in going after anybody that's in and around the cannabis industry right now. They're just not showing the interest. And hell, they could have taken out the entire glass house place, because once you find out they're breaking the law, they could have closed the whole goddamn thing down and taken everybody in charge of it to jail. I mean, I went to prison for 5 years for doing something that you would find, you know, in their trash can. Okay. They can do it if they want to. Somebody decided they don't want to do this. So that's a bigger question to ask. I mean, this is an easy one. If somebody files a false tax return, it's like, you know, if I'm their attorney, it's like, what, are you fucking stupid?
Yeah.
Mom drop you on your head a lot when you were a kid?
Apparently.
What are you doing? Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, keep the duffel bag trap money, just trap money.
Yeah.
Don't. That's where they went wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on this, Shaun?
There's an entire cash industry out there in the legal industry too. Nobody likes to talk about. But when you're charged with a crime, typically the defendant shows up at your office with a bag of cash, and you're relying on the attorney, wink, wink, nod, nod, to report all of his money. Good luck with that. Okay, doesn't happen that way. So my advice, you know, I'm not giving anybody legal advice, but my opinion would be, not my legal opinion, my personal, get your money out of the system.
Yeah.
Dumbass. What are you doing?
Any final thoughts on this, Shaun? Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on over here, and thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day, and Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.